going on, dudes and dudettes? So, yes, as of right now, Velus Jones, a wide receiver who is looking to transfer out of USC over spring break, is actually going to come back. His only decision was basically based on family related, because I guess one of his family members having health issues, but luckily it looks like everything's okay, so he doesn't have to transfer to some school that's closer to home to be able to help out. So kind of glad he is staying, because USC is pretty low on the wide receiver front. But luckily, leading into the next story, yes, it does seem more and more official every single day, even though it hasn't been officially announced, but looks like Brew McCoy is going to return to USC. Obviously, in his statement on Twitter or Instagram, he did say he is leaving University of Texas College and coming home. And obviously, he didn't officially say USC. Obviously, my head goes crazy and thinks he's going to go to UCLA, but obviously he left USC on good terms, so I think there is no reason why he wouldn't return back to USC. And especially since, they're running the air raid offense, so everybody who's a wide receiver is basically going to get a bunch of catches this summer and be able to show what they can do in order to get to the NFL, in my opinion. So it's a good win all around. And they're asking how many wins can USC football get this year. Obviously, it's a little bit tougher since we are back on that a little bit more on the north side. So we are getting the certain teams like Oregon and Washington and even Oregon State, which should be an easier game, but you just never know. But obviously, Washington and Oregon should be pretty tough games. And then you always have to play Stanford because they both play Notre Dame at some point in the season. So that'll happen pretty early. But even the out-of-conference, Fresno State would have been a dangerous game last year, but they lost a lot of talent, so it should be a little bit easier to open the season for them on ESPN. But that game at BYU should be very interesting in my opinion. I believe it's the third week, just because they did upset Wisconsin last year, but once again, they did lose a bunch of talent, but for some reason, BYU always seems to have some pretty good defensive guys, in my opinion. So it would be tough to score on them, maybe easier to stop them offensively, but just have to see how that goes. If it's definitely less than 7 wins, in my opinion, then Coach Helton is probably going to be let go. Then it's going to have another big offseason of searching for a head coach. But yeah, if he doesn't at least hit 7 wins, I think it's kind of time to cut ties right now. So the Chargers basically did a wide receiver swap on their roster, signing Fred Trevelyan from San Diego State, who's a rookie, undrafted, and they let go of Trevion Thompson, another wide receiver. See how this goes. Maybe the guy was injured, Thompson, before, but see how this goes. I didn't really look that deep into it, but definitely a position for position swap right there. Then they're looking to see if there's any ground to this Jalen Ramsey comment he said the other day on Instagram Live, saying that one day, sometime while him and Derwin James are in the NFL, that they will play on the same team. Obviously, they were teammates at Florida State, but the past 2 years, Ramsey has been in Jacksonville, and obviously the Chargers drafted Derwin James last year as well. So Ramsey should have 2 to 3 years left on his deal with Jacksonville, most likely because they are going to pick up his 5th-year option on his rookie deal. So in that time, Derwin James is still going to be a Charger, so you might as well just come and join us. Obviously, the Chargers were pretty high on Jalen Ramsey, but the fact that Joey Bosa was there, you couldn't risk letting a pretty good, talented pass rusher fall to another team. So they were obviously a no-brainer to pick him at that point. But they were high on Jalen Ramsey. I was even high on him. I had him in my top 3 of guys I wanted to pick, along with Bosa. So obviously it would be a match made in heaven if they were on the same team together. Obviously not the same position, but would work out perfectly, in my opinion, for the Chargers' future. Then they're asking if the Chargers, I guess they're not asking, they're saying that it's time for the Chargers to dethrone the Patriots. It's kind of crazy that they're saying that, because seems everywhere else is saying that Kansas City is going to be the one to take over the AFC and pretty much take control over that top spot over the Patriots to be consistently into the Super Bowl. But to me, it just always depends on injuries. I mean, you can't really count out the Patriots unless they have like more than 5 or 6 major injuries. Pretty sure they're going to be pretty okay with so many rookie and first or second year quarterbacks starting in their division, so they should pick up at least 50% of those wins all the time, so it won't be that hard for them. But yeah, I'm gonna have to wait and see, and I honestly don't think the Chargers are ready, but that's just my opinion. Yes, the USC fans, they're finally going to play against LSU, but sadly it's not in football. It's going to be in basketball at the Staples Center in December, I believe, so that'll be pretty cool to see next season coming up. A lot of talent on that basketball court of that game. Then Marquise Bolden, the ex-center of Duke, is actually scheduled to work out for the Lakers. Pretty surprising. I think he's either going to be a late second round pick or undrafted, so obviously got to do your homework on guys like that. Has a lot of high sides depending on how well he could do and stay healthy. He definitely has a lot of ability right there that he didn't get to show at Duke as usual. Then they're saying Cam Reddish went through a surgery for a core muscle. Something wrong right there, and luckily he's able to get it fixed now. I'm pretty sure it's not going to really hinder his draft position just because he's that much talented of a player. You really want him for his shooting and his height. So the fact of the core muscle and not really him having to use much of his athleticism is going to really affect him, in my opinion. Then Mike Buckmeyer, the guy who's a walk-on point guard at Duke. After 2 years, he finally got his Duke basketball scholarship. It's kind of surprising to me just because that leaves one space that you could have gotten another top 4 or 5-star talented guy on your roster for this year, next year, the year after that coming up. But now he's giving it to him. It's usually what happens for some of these guys, like a Justin Robertson as well, got a scholarship the other year. So it's pretty much a gamble in my opinion, but obviously you got to do what you got to do, make guys happy. Then also Quinn Cook, obviously don't like the fact that the other day they beat up the Raptors. They stole that game in Toronto, but he did have a lot of clutch threes and plays at the end of the game that I saw, which is always cool to see a Duke guy doing that. And he's obviously on a contract year, so people are also wondering too why that guy on the other side, Fred VanVleet, the point guard for Toronto, was doing good. And it's not because his son was born. He was just realizing that if he plays well, he's going to be in a contract year as well. I mean, it probably has to do something a little bit with his son being born, but more of that contract money, people. Then also they're saying that Duke has some of the highest odds to win the national championship in 2020 for next season. I don't know. I still got to wait and see. I love that Trey Jones is back and a few of the other guys that are there as well, but they just have to change their system to where these guys are getting, who are just straight shooters and good at shooting the three, just get those type of shots and not have to try to do stuff off the dribble or anything like that, because they're not that great at it, in my opinion. So I'm going to have to definitely wait and see how these guys do in the preseason, and maybe they do like another Canada thing, going over there playing 3 exhibition games to get a little bit more tape on them to see what I can look at on these freshmen. But like I always say, I'm going to have to wait and see. interview for his workout. I believe it was last Saturday. Jared Cover said LeBron James was present during his interview. You saw that picture of them as well together. It's pretty cool. He's going to be probably checking out the top competition, see where they're going to do. They are going to keep that player or not. Then also, they're saying that the Lakers basically have the best trade package for Anthony Davis throughout everyone else's opinion in the NBA. Boston and New York are basically the only two teams that could really get into the conversation with the destinations that he might want to go and re-sign. But as far as assets of what they want, Boston is maybe, but then he really didn't say Boston. He wants to stay at 2. He just says New York or LA. But to me, if you're going to do the trade, New York doesn't really have that many good of players. They might have more picks, but as far as players ready to go, it's the Lakers who have them and are developing them enough right now to be able to stand and do some damage in the Western Conference, but that's just my opinion. Then also, they're saying that the CP3 trade to the Lakers would save the destruction that's happening with the Lakers. Actually, no, it would actually make it worse, and true Laker fans do not want that circus to come to town where they let go of a bunch of players and taking on so much money and destroying the franchise day by day. Then they're saying Lonzo Ball could be traded for the 6 or 7 pick to, I believe it's the Phoenix Suns or maybe Chicago Bulls. And then they asked if that would be a good trade. I don't know if you could do it straight up. You might have to switch picks or maybe add picks later and also do player swapping as well. I think that'd be the only way to be able to switch and have the Lakers move down a few spots and still get a good enough player, in my opinion. But that's just the way I see it. And they're proclaiming that Brandon Ingram, the shooting forward for the LA Lakers, is going to be a superstar. I don't know. Times I believe it, times I don't. It always seems to happen like either right before or after the All-Star break, and then it only happens for about a month where he shows off like this crazy ability to average like 20 some odd points and over a certain amount of things, but it just seems like he can't really keep that consistently, and then whenever he does put out all that effort, then all of a sudden he gets injured, which sucks, and has to end up being out for the rest of the season. So I don't know, that's what's been happening lately the past couple years with him. I think as long as his vein and arteries and stuff are okay with that surgery he had a few months ago, then he could be able to be traded and be a top piece, and you could still get back something good in return, in my opinion. And yeah, he probably has a chance to be an all-star, but it really just depends what side he's going to be going to. If he's sent to the East, maybe if he's healthy, but in the West, there's always so many people that get selected way before a lot of other talented players, so that's just the way I see it, in my opinion. People rave about D'Angelo Russell making the all-star team, who was an ex-Laker, but to me, he wouldn't have been there if Victor Oladipo was healthy, in my opinion. Oladipo probably would have been a starter in the East, and obviously takes a spot from him. Pretty sure I mentioned that before, but Roger Goodell the other day mentioned too that he wants to shorten the preseason. It's already at 4 games, and I think putting it down to 2 would be pretty good too. So they don't have to play all these crappy, meaningless games, in my opinion. Then also Calvin Johnson, an ex-Detroit Lion, basically the reason why my brother pretty much likes the Detroit Lions, in my opinion. It was because of Calvin Johnson, but then he retired pretty soon, even though he thought he could play a little bit more. And obviously the contract they offered him was big, and now he says he wants to come back, but only if the Lions would honor that contract. It's pretty insane because it's a lot of money for a guy who hasn't been playing for the past almost 3 or 4 years. I don't think they should do it, in my opinion. And he is kind of being a little bit of a diva doing that. But thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. And have a great rest of your day.